Are you guys ready up there? All right. All right, quiet on the set.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Adventures in Movies. My name is Nathaniel, and I am the movie editor at AIPT. Joining me on these ongoing adventures is our resident basketball analyst.
That's me, and I'll tell you this right now from downtown. I am Danny.
Also joining us on these ongoing adventures is our very own trans-dimensional Bigfoot.
That's right. I also like basketball. My name is Blake.
He also goes by Backwoods Larry. So
Backwoods Larry.
How was your guys' week?
Not
man,
bad.
It's been a week, huh? Shit.
It's been a week.
I've had super fast. I keep forgetting. Like yesterday, I had probably the worst day, I guess. Like I had 2 flat tires. Like
what?
So, yeah.
That does suck.
So I think that was Monday. That was a Monday. I don't know. It's been a week. Yeah, you're right. I can't tell anymore.
All the days they have tended to blend together since all this happened. And I'm not even under quarantine, so I can only imagine the people who can't leave their house. Jerry Stiller passed away this week, so I think our greatest memories of Jerry Stiller revolve around Seinfeld. So, but still, I'll throw the question out there. What was your guys' favorite Jerry Stiller moment, character, Seinfeld joke?
My favorite character of his was when he played Ben Stiller's agent in Zoolander, because he was like dressed so gaudy. It's just Jerry Stiller.
I guess you could say I was airing a grievance. So that would be my favorite Jerry Stiller. The Festivus, I think, is his most iconic moment, right, on Seinfeld. So.
You know which one that I like from Seinfeld? It's a smaller one, but it's an episode with Larry David in it. He's the man with the cape, and everyone's like, George is talking to a man with the cape, Jerry Stiller is talking to the man in the cape, and they're asking George like, "We saw your dad," and he was talking to a man in a cape. Like it's just his lawyer, and he's just wearing like one of those. It's not an actual vampire cape. It's just one of those like cloak type things that people wear to keep the rain off of them. But everybody's wondering why Jerry Stiller is talking to a man in a cape.
He had great timing.
He was hilarious. He had he kind of became a caricature of himself during the show, but I think he was meant to be that. So it was never not funny. I remember him and I wrote an article about this 2 years ago, I think. But Tales from the Dark Side, one of my favorite episodes on there it's about a very popular conservative talk radio host. Keep in mind, this is like 1985. So for those of you who don't know what radio is, it's like Spotify, except you can't make your own playlist. So
if you're not paying for Spotify.
If you're not paying for Spotify, right? He's a popular conservative talk show radio, and he does all the tropes, like get the people off of welfare. They're just taking money from us anyway, and stuff like that. People are on the show complaining, and they're kind of giving him death threats and stuff like that. And he's reveling in it because he's making lots of money. Well, it turns out that this particular episode of the show, as the show is progressing, he's saying more and more hateful things, and he's becoming more monster, like more feral, I guess. He's growing a snout, and it's really subtle. Like he's getting really sweaty. He's growing a snout, and he's kind of growing these horns. And it's getting, I guess, darker in his booth. Turns out he's in hell, and the devil's kind of watching him do his show. It's I
remember that now that you say it. Yeah, I totally remember that one.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's it's a 30-minute horror anthology show, so it's not super surprising the direction it's going, but it's really cool. It's really well done in the classic way that horror anthologies go. It's really cool, and that's that's the thing. Aside from the Seinfeld stuff, that's the thing that I remember most about Jerry Stiller. In more, I guess, more happier news, Robert Pattinson, who we've talked about consistently on this show. He's been in some of our favorite movies. Those movies have been indie films. He made a conscious decision after the Twilight Saga to star in movies to work with directors and actors that he was interested in doing. Well, this year actually he's going to be in Tenet. Next year he's going to be in the Batman. He's returning to major motion pictures. So my first question is, what do you guys think about Robert Pattinson making his long-awaited return to tentpole movies?
I thought he was already doing that.
It's
Honestly,
because you watch those movies. That's why. You never missed them because you've seen a lot of them. That's how I feel the same way. I mean, it's like I just saw him in The Lighthouse, right? It was awesome.
Yeah, I've never seen. Okay, I've only seen like 10 minutes of Twilight, and
No,
seriously, that's the most I've seen of the Twilights. Like I've never seen those, and then a lot of the movies that he's in are like pretty I guess because Twilight has done this to him, like put him into like this stardom. So like I feel like every movie that he's in, even though he says they're like indie films, they're kind of like big names. Obviously with like like The Lighthouse that just came out. Like I mean, even like for Eggers, right? It was Eggers. Now I'm getting my director's correct.
Yeah, but like name someone that's not a film nerd that talks.
I was gonna say like working with the Safdie brothers and being in the Sister Brothers and The Lighthouse. Those aren't even near 10. Those are small movies. Like you've seen them, I've seen them, Blake's seen them, and maybe like 10 other people in the country have seen them. I mean, this dude was, and I love those. I don't mean to talk shit about those movies because he's a really good actor, and I'm glad that he had the financial ability to work in films that he wanted to do, but at the beginning of this year or end of last year, he wasn't getting any more calls for roles anymore. So this turns out that the reason he's returning to major motion pictures is partially because it's a career decision. Well, I mean, thankfully Twilight has made him financially secure for probably a few lifetimes. But yeah, he doesn't want to keep an income coming in. But
Wesley Sniped it up. Wesley Sniped his entire...
I mean, Wesley Snipes was only in jail for like 2 to 3 years, so be
for tax
fine.
evasion.
Yeah, tax evasion. That's fine.
Well, he was recently in. He was in last season's What We Do in the Shadows in a pretty cool performance. I mean, people do respect Wesley Snipes. So
I
got
love
a big
Wesley
ovation.
Snipes.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes is great.
Awesome. Got a big ovation when they announced they were remaking Blade. I mean, partially because of what he did for the character.
Yeah.
Oh, he started that whole shit, man. Blade was awesome.
He absolutely did. And Robert Pattinson, and kind of works out for him because he is returning to major motion pictures, but he's working with 2 directors that he really wants to work with, Christopher Nolan in Tenet and Matt Reeves with The Batman. So kind of a best of both worlds thing. I mean, it's hard to feel like, oh man, I'm so glad for that multimillionaire. Like it's hard to have that feeling for them. He is a good actor, and it does kind of suck that he put in all this hard work and good roles that people just were like gonna just leave him, just like forget about him.
Everybody, watch this man jerk off in an attic, please. Just watch him jerk off for fucking 5 minutes. I swear it. You're gonna love it.
It's well worth it. It's well worth it. And hopefully,
very worth it. Yeah.
You know what? Maybe the Batman and Tenet, it'll kind of like Twilight, help those indie projects get off the ground. Hopefully, when he's after Batman or the Batman and Tenet, like that'll help with future indie flicks. Because I'm pretty sure he'll probably return to doing that. I mean, just my guess. I don't know.
Well,
reverse Travolta.
Yeah, I feel like Nolan did the same thing. Like he wanted to make his own movie, so he work on the Batman series or the Dark Knight series, and then he got to do Inception, and he got to do other like more passion projects. So I feel like everybody has to do. I guess these big names have to do something that they. I don't want to say that Christopher Nolan didn't want to do the Dark Knight, but I feel like he's gonna give a little bit of himself so he could get like a bigger paycheck for
absolutely
Inception and fucking Interstellar.
Tenet. Yeah, I totally agree
exactly,
with you. Like you have to do this kind of stuff to line your pockets. I think people make fun of him now, and we've made fun of him. But I think Nicolas Cage is the prime example of someone who would literally do one small film and then one big film. So you would see like Wild at Heart followed by Air Force One. or be like something ridiculous like that. Like he would do his The Rock,
yeah,
right?
yeah, Rock, yeah.
Face Off and then leaving Las Vegas. Like
Oh man,
he has a
I
really
fucking
weird.
love Nicolas Cage. We just,
He's
dude,
great.
can we do a whole Nicolas Cage month? Like he's just
We
he's done so much bullshit out there.
Nicolas
for
Cage is
that.
a fantastic actor. He's a
Yeah.
fantastic actor. Even his bad movies, you can glean some entertainment out of them. Like I don't like the zombie one where only the parents are infected by
Dad?
it. I'm not a big fan.
Oh yeah.
Is it? I wasn't a big fan. I don't think it's called. It might be called Mom and Dad. I forgot what it was called, but that one's not the best. But he is really good at it. So like. But you're right, Danny. To your point, there are a lot of directors that have they kind of do stuff that not so much like you said that they don't want to do it, but they kind of concede to do certain projects so they can fund passion projects, like you said, and you hear about that all the time. Passion projects, people working on passion projects. So this past week, I watched a good amount of stuff. So. A few years ago, or I guess it was last year, I would constantly talk about The Favorite. I loved The Favorite. I thought it was like one of the best movies of 2018, if not the best movie of 2018. Oh, that was written by Tony McNamara. So if you're listening to this on a Friday because you're a subscriber, then as soon as you're done, you should go to Hulu and check out the premiere of The Great. It's a 10-episode miniseries. It's about Catherine the Great and her rise to power. She's the famous for being the longest reigning female ruler of Russia, possibly more famous for supposedly having sex with a horse. But the Great, as it gleefully puts on its title, it's an occasionally true story about how she became the ruler of Russia. Really funny. Much like The Favorite, I mean, unsurprisingly, it shares a lot of traits with it. But whereas The Favorite was, I mean, it was a comedy drama, a dark comedy drama. This one has much more levity to it. Really, and Nicholas Hoult is in it. He was also in The Favorite. He's like steals the show in it. But Elle Fanning is in it. Period piece, so it's beautiful to look at. 10 episodes, an hour each, so it'll take some time to watch, but well worth the time. Out right now is true crime, really big thing. But for those of you who didn't know what radio was when I was talking about it, here's another bombshell for you. True crime actually was around way before podcasts. You can go back to even, I mean, if you want to like really stretch it, like in Citizen Kane, he says that you bring the wars, I'll bring the headlines, which is a little bit different. But I mean, episodes of The Twilight Zone, going into the 60s and 70s, and even in the 80s, there was lots of shows, movies, television shows, and documentaries about the court of public opinion. Very popular thing, and how sensationalized the events would be because of the media. So Trial by Media looks at some of the most sensationalized crimes, not counting OJ and Casey Anthony and things of that nature. So you have like, I don't know if you guys remember the Jenny Jones murder trial. Like that's the very first episode. Very interesting. But for those of you who don't know who Jenny Jones is, she's a tame version of Jerry Springer, but she ended up going in that direction. But she had a show about secret crushes. One guy goes on the show and he admits to his male friend that, hey, you know what? I have a crush on you. And on the show, the guy's like, oh my God, I can't believe you have a crush on me. He ends up killing him. So like they have this murder trial about, murder is murder. There's no denying that happened, but it was how culpable was Jenny Jones and her show and Warner Brothers for it. Oh, and the media Court TV was huge at this time. So it kind of went and ran with it. And it deals with a number of cases about, I don't know if you guys, well, we wouldn't remember this because it started when we were young, but there was a killer in New York. There was a man in New York known as the Death Wish Avenger. But basically, some dudes tried to mug him on a subway, and he shot him, put one in a wheelchair, and severely injured the other ones. And New York was totally happy with him. They loved this vigilante. But that case carried on into the 90s, and the way the media changes its opinion over the course of that 9 years or so, it's really interesting. Because at first they're comparing him to like Charles Bronson in Death Wish. By the end, they're talking about how crazy he is and stuff. It's an interesting series, very well produced. George Clooney was one of the producers for it, but really well done. And it's if you've never heard of these cases, it's also super interesting because it plays out over the course of an hour, and all the twists and turns that are normally associated with these fantastic cases are in there. So you're kind of following the case, and then you don't know what happens until the very end. It's super interesting watch if you're into true crime, which like everybody seems to be into nowadays, and it's absolutely worth your time. So watched a couple of movies. PBS, I don't know if you guys have heard of America Reframed, but it's a documentary series. So I watched one called Where the Pavement Ends. It's about Ferguson, Missouri, which was famous for all the wrong reasons in 2014. But basically, a young black man was killed by a white officer, and it just, it led to riots that went off and on for a year. These riots lasted. But in a nutshell, like, that's where the documentary eventually gets to. But Ferguson and its sister city of I believe it's pronounced Killhawk, Missouri. They've always had this racial tension there. Ferguson was actually a sundown town. I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but basically they were whites only towns that basically all minorities had to be out by the time the sun went down, or else. Pretty much what it amounts to. So it kind of goes into
sounds
the
like a fucking fun place.
Yeah, for shit, right? Ferguson, Missouri. It already sounds awesome, but yeah. It's a sundown town too.
Fucking Missouri. Is there anything good out of Missouri? Is there one good thing?
St. Louis and the Clydesdales.
Fuck St. Louis. Fuck that.
St. Louis. Yeah, they get the.
Hey, they won. You're a baseball fan. They won a lot of World
I don't
Series.
like the fucking Cardinals.
I don't like the Cardinals
I'm an Indians
either.
fan.
Yeah. Like
I'm just throwing it out there. What good thing? What came out of there? Some World Series champions.
The best thing they do periodically is beat the Cubs. So
yeah, they have. That's the best thing they have. Like,
I guess Budweiser. I guess I'm a beer guy. I should say Budweiser.
Hey, and those 4 wins they get a year over the course of a 300 game series, they mean something.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very true.
Take that, St. Louis.
It does kind of, it's really, what's interesting about this is because it's not very hard to find a documentary about the racial divide in this country. It's very, very easy to. But what this documentary does is it localizes it and to just those 2 cities, and that's it. It doesn't try to make a comparison to like, here's what's happening here and here's how it affects the rest of the country. Like, it's just, the director grew up in Ferguson, so she kind of has firsthand knowledge of what, and there's not so much interviews as there are like recollections and memories that people have of it. So it's interesting. It's a downer, but it's interesting. So I saw On a Magical Night, which is the exact opposite. It's a French sex comedy. Ooh la la. The actress actually won Best Actress award at I forgot which film festival, but she won for Best Actress. It's a really interesting premise. So this woman is a college lecturer, and she's been married for 20 years. But over the course of that 20 years, she's very sexually liberated. And it's a great performance. She's incredibly funny. And one night her husband finds out that, she's been sleeping around, and she just tells him, like, get over it, basically. And she decides, like, you know what? You're like taking this way too seriously. I was just having fun. I'm going to go to a hotel and chill out because you're bothering me. So she goes to this hotel, and the title kind of gives it away. She's there for one night, and it's a romantic fantasy type of thing. Over the course of that one night, she starts to see all the lovers of her past, including her husband when she first met him and first became attracted to him. She meets just various people in her life over the past 20 years. It's like a sexy family reunion, I guess I would say. But
nice second cousins.
It's really, really funny. It's a really cool premise.
Southern France, I take
it. It's not as farcical as you think it would be. There's lots of philosophizing about life and love and stuff like that, which kind of takes away from the fun of it. But absolute great performance, like really, really fun movie. It is actually, you can get it on Alamo On Demand, which leads to another documentary I saw called Kate Nash, Underestimate the Girl, which is coming to Alamo On Demand on May the 22nd, I believe. Kate Nash is Britannica on Glow, Netflix's Glow. It's a really interesting documentary. Like, I didn't know well, I don't know anything about Kate Nash, but apparently she was a huge pop star in England when she was like 17. And she kind of rode that way for a few years. She won a Brit Award. And early on, they show her presenting or accepting her award, and she makes a statement that, I'm really happy to have won this award, but I hope eventually the industry realizes that female isn't a genre. And that kind of sets up the tone of the movie. Like it kind of shows how the music industry cannibalizes itself. It's young and it's female performers especially. She decides
Gotcha.
to go in a different. Yeah, there you go. She makes a punk album. She gets dropped by her label via text, which is really crazy.
Ooh.
She comes to America, and it's almost fiction, the things that happen to her while she's here, but it's a very interesting story. It's sad and intimate. You root for her. She's incredibly creative. The things that she wants to, I mean, she's obviously a musician. She wants to write songs for others. She wants to be an actress, and she does end up on Glow, which is part of the story. But it's a super interesting documentary. Yeah, the director does Amy Goldstein is her name. She does a very interesting thing where obviously they don't know where the story is going. Like there's stuff that happens that would like just blow your mind. It's crazy what happens to this poor woman. But the director kind of had a loose idea as to what they want to do, and then things changed to where they even had to change the style that they were like. They actually had to have Kate Nash kind of film some of it herself, like in almost like selfie style. So it's interesting the way that the documentary plays out, and the story is it's cool. It's a good watch. It's super interesting. I saw Among Them, which is on Amazon Prime right now. You can check it out. It's a cool genre mash. It's these bank rob it's your typical bank robbery gone wrong movie, and then they end up with a hostage. That in itself is kind of an interesting twist. So you kind of think like, oh, it's one of these where there's twists and betrayals and secrets and all this great stuff. It has this weird supernatural horror vibe to it. Totally throws you off. But it's the only complaint I have, and this is kind of common with heist movies, is it kind of runs out of steam in the third act, and it becomes very twist reliant, very very lots of flashbacks and lots of twists and twists on top of twists type of thing, to where you just kind of lose track of it, which makes you lose interest in it. But it's different. And let me see, what was the final thing I saw? Monstrum on Shudder. It's a South Korean creature feature. This one this is really interesting too. So the creature effects are awesome, but the interesting thing about the creature is you eventually find out as you're watching the movie what's going on. I would argue that you find out a little too soon, but political intrigue and creature features, it's not a new thing. Like there's always the one dude who just wants to drop the bomb on the city and kill millions while killing the monster. Yeah. And then there's the other dude who's like, let's do this a little bit different. Let's take him out to the ocean where no one is, and then we'll drop the bomb on him. So this one has the emperor of South Korea. There's a prime minister who wants his position. So what he's done is he started it's very common in politics. He started a fear-mongering campaign. He's let the
What's that like?
I don't know, kidding, right? He's let the population know that there's this monster, a man-eating monster roaming the countryside, killing people and infecting them with the plague. So you don't know. You see a monster and it's vicious and gory and the scenes are pretty bloody, but you don't know if it's real or not, like if people are imagining things and going after each other. It's this weird political creature feature movie that just an amazing premise with some great special effects. But I think with the storytelling, they got a little impatient on the reveal, because it's shocking how quickly they let you know what's going on. And once they let you know what's going on, it kind of just becomes at that point, yeah, it's a monster movie. And if you like that, it's awesome. And it's a really cool looking monster. But they do take away a big part of the appeal. Yeah. Oh, Sopranos. I don't know if you guys remember the episode where a guy actually thought he was Larry David. Crazy show. It is a crazy show. Like I'm constantly amazed by the Sopranos, but a guy seriously on the show thought he was Larry David. So, yeah, that's what I've watched.
I was gonna say something on Monstrum. At the end, they all realize that they're the monsters. So
that they're the most dangerous game.
Yeah, yeah. I've been keeping up with Miss America and Run. Miss America is still such a great show, great performances. The last one was the perfect couple debate, essentially, where this show is so, it opens a lot of like questions for me, like how is this, like the question of like why are women still, or women rights are still like being debated now. It answers one of them, at least. It's like there's these women, like these hardcore housewives that don't want things to change, and they follow the Bible essentially, and that's where I think the modern conservative starts to build up on that. But it's such a really interesting show, really really good, great performances, and Run. I guess it's losing steam, because this last episode was called Chase. I don't know if the writers know where they're going. I think I'm still intrigued with this show, but I think I just want this show to kind of end already. I guess I'm just done doing this chase. A lot of it's just like kind of like a catalyst thing. Something happens in this 30-minute episode, and this is pretty much the whole series so far. Something happens, and we're gonna see how it goes. So in this last episode, the two main characters realize that I forgot his name. Billy. Billy's personal assistant. I'm sorry, I'm losing words here. Personal assistant ran with their money, and now they have to chase her.
It's DMC, no? Run and DMC. It's not
Run and DMC. Yeah. They're trying to like chase her down. They go into a small town in Colorado. She jumps out of a window, and she essentially kills herself. So they're now trying to hide this murder, I guess. I don't know. I'm completely lost. I can't even tell you.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it's like a 30. It's honestly for 30 minutes.
Why are you still watching this show?
Because that's the thing is, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna like, the first like 3 episodes were pretty okay, and now we're just like, oh, okay, like this is where we're at now. Like it lost steam really, really quick. And honestly, as I mentioned, like I don't think the writers know where they're going. Well, obviously, they know where they're going, but as a viewer, I don't feel like any connection at all anymore. And so I'm just like, at this point, I'm just kind of like, I'm just here to watch it and now maybe complain. But yeah, the next thing I saw is going to be, I'm going to have to apologize to Pat right away. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you when you talked about this movie. I should have seen this a long, long time ago. Blinded by the Light. Holy fuck.
Yeah. Good, huh?
Pretty good is like understatement. It's like, fuck, I cried. Like, I hardcore cried.
Hey, so someone who wrote that, seriously, they're a huge Morrissey fan, huh? There's like constant references throughout there, like Smith's this and Morrissey that. It's like, okay, we get it. You like it.
Yeah. It's just
well, they are talking shit about him when they.
Yeah, they're talking. Yeah, a lot of shit. Yeah, it's a lot of shit. But the thing is, like, it's a lot of like kind of the stuff that I guess we talk about, like when we're talking about like I guess our parents' music. This is old music. It's not like what we listen to, and I felt that kind of like divide.
Bruce Springsteen. I listen to old shit.
Well, yeah, but because I think we grew up with it. But at the thing when we're like, at least in my case, I never wanted like to listen to like KLAQ, like that kind of rock. And
who does? I mean, let's be real.
Right. I know. And this got really specific in our town, but like it's classic rock station. And I was like, I wanted to know something more new, so I really got into like East Coast rap, and so I got really into like Puff Daddy, and I got like all this like stupid shit.
And you big Mace guy? You big fucking Mace guy, Danny?
Fuck yeah. And so
you went into that Harlem world?
I went to that Harlem world.
Also, you can't say you're big into rap and say Puff Daddy.
Puff Daddy. At least you can say Wu-Tang. Jesus.
You don't pick a producer. Come on.
He was a rapper in 1996, and then like for 2 years, I was like, yeah, no, this is like the shit right here. And I remember like hearing like Led Zeppelin. I'm like, oh fuck. And it's because this motherfucker sampled
Puff Daddy.
Yeah. So, and it was kind of like this, like that thing. Like he was just trying to be himself, and a lot of like the culture in Pakistani culture, I kind of related to it, and it just, I guess I got emotional because I was like, fuck, man, like we're all just trying to make it within our own culture. and it hit pretty hard. I think it hit pretty hard, and I think I will never see Bruce Springsteen the same ever again, just because oh man, he touched me in the heart, like right in the right places, man, like just in the right places. I feel like he speaks, obviously the movie talks about like how he speaks to different cultures. He's always fighting for the man, I guess. It's just really, really good. Like the movie was really, I ended up like just saying this is probably the best thing I've seen all year. And we've seen so many good things already. But man, Blinded by the Light, I have nothing but great things to talk about. And if you haven't seen it, I really just would recommend sitting down, watching it. I don't think you'd really need to know the music. My girlfriend didn't know anything about Bruce Springsteen, so this was kind of like a catch-up type of thing, and it just worked. I didn't see where the musical part was, Pat, but before this, obviously. And now, as I saw it, I was like, "Oh yeah, it works as a musical. It worked like a music video at times." The guy the director was really into also the '80s, so a lot of like bits seemed like an '80s video, kind of like a "Come On Eileen" video. I forget the name of the band, but yeah, just great.
These Midnight Riders.
Thank you, thank you.
On, man.
I really enjoyed the movie a lot. Damn, Pat, like I missed the boat on that one for sure.
You were blinded by the light.
I was blinded by the fucking light.
In this case, the light was lack of box office. It was in and out of the theaters in like a day.
And the next things I saw these on Netflix. This is John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch is a children's comedy special written by Mulaney, and he wanted to do a children's special, but he saw that all the children's specials were terrible, so he took on himself to make a special for kids. The show talks about like how parents don't pay attention to their children when they're making, their own little sketch shows. So he invites Talking Heads guy, I just forgot his name, David Byrne.
Peter Byrne.
It's David Byrne. But then like he also talks about like he's asking his actor friends what they fear the most. It's just a great it's a great hour's worth of show. I ended up having a huge smile. It's a cute little show. I really enjoyed it. It's probably the best thing I liked from John Mulaney. And then the next thing I saw was Have a Good Trip: Adventures in Psychedelics. I wish this movie came out in 420 month, but hey, Netflix can't choose them all. This one is just this is a PSA on the good things about psychedelics. The celebrities talk about their adventures in acid, LSD,
Movies.
DMT. Yeah, adventure. Hey, that's us. And it's a good positive thing. If there's some things that they say, obviously this is not for everybody. They give you that warning. They give you that warning about, hey, drugs could be bad, but they could also be really good. And that's a thing that I liked a lot about this, because they give you the good and the bad experiences. So it's not always like this, like they're showering it with love. They're saying, hey, this did happen. And I really liked it a lot. I did think that was a really good show, or I'm sorry, a good movie. I don't know. I feel like we should see more positive PSAs about drug usage, because, not everything, like, again, the conservatives and try to destroy everything.
I agree. Heroin's gotten a bad rap.
So it's such a bad rap.
I mean, if your back hurts, a little heroin takes it right away.
Hey, Sherlock Holmes. I mean, world's second greatest detective. He was down with the opium.
That's true.
Wait, who's the first? Batman?
Isn't it Batman?
I thought it was Sherlock.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say the Great Mouse Detective.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck.
Well, it might be a three-way. It's kind of a pick your poison thing. How
yeah. Take one, dab one. Let's see what goes out. And in I think, I don't even know. We're in the 7 and 8 episodes of The Last Dance. Danny will talk about sports with his friends Blake and Pat, and
it's very well done.
It's very well done. It's like 30 for. It's all the best things of 30 for 30. And the 7 and 8 episode, the 7th episode was about his dad and how he was essentially there for him and his retirement. I think I might have gotten them. I just watched them together, so it's probably all a big blur.
they're kind of like two episodes that kind of say the same message.
Yes. Okay, because the eighth one was about. This is how I saw it. Oh, they talk about Space Jam. Awesome, but see these things that like I don't know, like how there's. We talked about conspiracy movies like last week, and how everybody has a conspiracy for everything, saying that like Michael Jordan's father was killed because of gambling, and he retired because of like the gambling problems was such a big thing. Like I don't know, like did you guys ever like seeing this or living through this? I'm sorry, did you guys ever think something like that, or were you that involved in Michael Jordan's life as children?
I remember hearing it.
Yeah,
it was a really big thing with both of them. Like I remember him being really sad, but people saying it was due to gambling debts. And I remember that I know they framed it as it was like his dream to play baseball, and he had already kind of conquered the basketball world. But I remember the rumor very much being that the NBA was gonna suspend him. So David Stern, who was really close with him, kind of gave him an out, because there was all those rumors about David Stern, about like the '85 draft, how the Knicks surprisingly got that in. They got Patrick Ewing and all that. So
right,
the Stern or Jordan thing was kind of I remember hearing that. I don't know if I've never really thought much about it, to be honest with you, but
nah, I didn't.
Yeah, that's what it amounts to. It didn't bother me either way.
Yeah, it's so weird, like how the media put so much like emphasis on this conspiracy, or whatever. I'm just gonna call it a conspiracy, but yeah, I guess it is, right. Whatever.
But it was interesting in the episode. Like they asked Jordan, they're like, "So, was it because of gambling?" And he's like, "No." And then they move on.
Yeah.
Mystery solved. I wish they were all that easy.
Like, all right, Jordan. Shit. His Ernest just said no. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these things, like how they talk to him, there's like this, like like I don't give a damn type of thing. Sometimes it's like
he did Gary Payton raw.
Oh man, that shit was intense.
That was funny.
Why, he talks shit about the glove?
Yeah, so the glove was like he tells like a story about how in the finals, like in the last like 2 or 3 games, that they put Gary Payton on Jordan, and he kind of locked him down until the last game, and they show the video of Gary Payton saying this to Jordan, and then they videotape Jordan, and Jordan's just like, belly laughing about it. He's like, I had no problem with the glove. I had no problem. It was pretty disrespectful.
Yeah, it's like no, I had other things in my mind, and they kind of like fade into like it's June 16th and it's Father's Day, and you're like, we're making it about his father, like narratively.
That's how they segue into like Jordan's real sad about his dad.
Yeah, so it's like this whole thing, like they fuck over like Payton a lot, like with this, because obviously like Payton has this whole mentality of like, oh yeah, I was on him through and through, and then Jordan's like, nah, dude, I'm thinking about my dead dad.
Jordan doesn't respect anybody but Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. That's like the two people that he respects.
He doesn't,
and that's like the way it should be, if you think about it. Like, really, those guys saved the NBA. If it wasn't for that rivalry, I mean, the NBA would have been. I mean, it went from like, I don't think it was even broadcast, to being this like worldwide phenomenon that affects politics in China. So you gotta give that to Larry Bird and Magic Johnson.
Yeah, no, I give him a lot like respect, and even Jordan like has this, like he's bigger than these two other players, and I feel like I don't know what this show is supposed to answer for us, but I feel like
Jordan kicks ass.
Jordan's kick ass, and he's a selfish asshole, and my opinion about him has not changed one bit. Yeah, and I think I like it even more. But yeah, that's
so. Is he the GOAT?
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
I don't know, man. It's between him, Tom Brady, and Chris Jericho. Like,
you know what's funny is like the one guy who never gets fucking mentioned in like GOAT category, like best athlete of all time, and he probably is Wayne Gretzky. That guy gets no fucking respect, and he's like probably
that's what he gets for playing hockey instead of
no one gives a fucking shit about hockey. Oh, it's so funny.
Like I can't believe golf gets more recognition than hockey.
Totally, dude. Oh yeah, Tiger Woods, way more respect.
Yeah, Tiger Woods. I never thought about that, but you're right.
So is it my turn? All right, let's go.
Yeah, what do you got here? You got an interesting list here.
I I do. It's eclectic to say the least. And so I've been reading. This has nothing. I'm sure this will be made into a TV movie or a movie of some kind. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it now. If It Bleeds is the new novel. It was released last month by Mr. I don't know if anybody's heard of him on this podcast or heard me talk about him before. A guy named Stephen King. Old Steve King wrote a new book. Yes.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, right. And so far, Stephen King's kind of weird. Like, I would say it's very much hit or miss lately. Or to The Outsider was a huge success on HBO, and I while I liked it, I overall thought it kind of was lacking. The Institute came out recently, and I kind of thought the same thing about that. This has a completely different feel from the get-go, right from the jump. This feels much more like something written, I would say, like in the early 2000s or something. It's kind of got a similar vibe of a young guy. I think some of his best stuff involves like the main character is a young person, and the main character in this, well, it starts out anyway as though is this young man. I think he's like 12. 10 to 12, and he develops this relationship with this old guy, and it's all during the time of iPhone 1 and that kind of stuff. But excellent storytelling so far. I'm just at the beginning of it, but so far I'm really enjoying it. I will update as I go along. Then to the movies. Oh boy, I watched Glass. That was a bad fucking movie. That was not a good movie. Pointless, I would say. At the end, even pointless a movie. You've seen this, both of you, or just Danny?
I've seen it. I don't think Pat's seen it.
I don't watch M Night Shyamalan and Ding Dong movies anymore.
Okay. All right, rightfully so. So, Danny, what did you think about this?
I was excited for the movie when it came out. When we went to go see it, it was kind of like, what the fuck is going on thing. And this movie, this so-called trilogy, like it's just a waste of time. Nothing really connects, or I mean, there's connections, but it's just a waste of like.
But it's a waste of time. It makes all three movies a complete waste of time.
Yeah, it's a complete waste. Yeah, Then again, I've never liked Unbreakable. I never thought it was a good movie.
I'm glad that you said that, because every time I say I don't like that movie, people are like, "Oh,
it's not a good movie." It's not. I got a lot of shit on that too. It's a terrible fucking movie. And then with the second
predictable.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
This movie is boring. Glass is boring.
Yeah.
Glass is super boring. And then I'll spoil it because who gives a fuck? At the end, it's like the big twist of this whole series of movies is this is the origin story of superpower people in the world. It's like, who cares, man? Who cares? And the final showdown, one of the most laughable fucking things I've ever seen in a fucking movie. It was dumb. Anyway, moving on. Done with Glass. Tired of talking about it. Maniac Cop.
I was going to ask you.
Oh, go ahead.
I was asking about Maniac Cop too. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Did you watch The Last Drive-In?
No. Was this on The Last Drive-In originally?
No, in between the two movies, they showed they showed like commercials from the time. They might even be VHS commercials. I don't know. Right. But this week they showed Maniac Cop 2, which
no shit.
It's just cool to see those. So I thought that might have been why you watched. They also showed Brain Damage by Frank Henenlotter, who did Basket Case and Frankenhooker. Have you ever seen Brain Damage?
I've never seen Frankenhooker.
I think I've seen Brain Damage. I've definitely seen Frankenhooker.
All three of those movies are awesome. I love Basket Case. I'm a huge Basket Case fan, but yeah, Brain Damage is
such a ridiculously. It's like it's great. It's great.
Yeah. Brain Damage is in that. There's a little weird dude. He sounds like the WB frog, that little racist frog who does the come on,
hello my baby, hello my honey, hello my ragtime girl.
He looks like a mix between a penis and a turd, and I sent you guys a screenshot of one of the attacks. One of the craziest. I'm sorry, but yeah, Maniac Cop 2. They showed Bruce Campbell and all his gory awesomeness.
Yeah. So I mean, I really don't have much to say about it. It's kind of well, I would say the Maniac Cop actually is as a 80s horror villain. He's pretty awesome. He's 100% brutal. He's incredibly violent and like super strong and unstoppable. Like he's kind of like got it all. and he drives around in a cop car. Like he's fucking pretty hardcore. Like Maniac Cop,
underrated.
Yeah, it's
Very underrated.
very underrated. But yeah, the best thing about I just loved how violent like his attacks were. Like they're way over the top. And yeah, I think Maniac Cop 2 is if you have Amazon Prime, it's on there right now, so check that out.
Hey, does he kill the in the commercial? They show like he's in the police department, and there's like this dude in one of the cells. He's really skinny and he looks like a junkie or something. And Maniac Cop is kind of walking towards him.
Yeah.
And the dude's like, "Oh, my friend, you're back. Are you gonna kick some more ass or something like that?" Like,
yeah. I don't think he
does
kills
he kill
that
that dude?
No, I don't think
good.
so. No, Maniac Cop's
not.
got like a conscience, man. Like he's got like he's not just a mindless killer. Like he chooses who to destroy, which is pretty good. There's also a scene in this fucking movie. Oh my god, that like I think it takes place in New York, right? So it doesn't make sense on this level too. So this girl gets in the fucking like on this car, takes off. So imagine this girl's hanging on the outside of the driver's side of the car, like completely on the outside of the car, holding onto the steering wheel as the car is driving down the road, right?
Nice.
And so yeah, and she's driving down a road with curves and swerves and shit, and she's driving completely fucking like she's still like making the turns, missing other cars, yeah, navigating fine. And the moment she gets into the fucking car, she finally climbs in. The moment she gets into the car, she fucking crashes. It's fucking it's so fucking funny. Oh my god! So Maniac Cop 2, check it out, Amazon Prime. Tigers Are Not Afraid. This is on Shudder. Yes. So, Danny, have you been? This is on your radar, I take it.
Yeah. So I want to hear all about it, baby.
Oh well, I got it for you, honey. This is a really, really good movie. I'd been recommended this in the past, and I've been meaning to check it out for quite a while. It's on Shudder. So if you are a Shudder subscriber, you can check it out. Also, I still think there's renewing that free month. But this is the tale of. So it describes itself as a fairy tale. I'll read the little thing from IMDb. A dark fairy tale about a gang of 5 children trying to survive the horrific violence of the cartels and the ghosts created every day by the drug war. And that's a very loose description, I would say, of what this is. It's very compartmentalized, small cast, and you really get to know these kids. In particular, the main girl, her name is Estrella. And it's dark, very dark, very unfortunately, a lot of the themes are very prevalent and prevalent in today's society and in Mexico, and it's a very violent place, and this kind of illustrates that in a way. And it kind of sets up with this this girl, her mother goes missing, and she's kind of left at home to kind of fend for herself. And then like the next day at school, like the school gets kind of like shot up in a like kind of a like what you would think kind of a drive-by situation. And her teacher gives her these 3 pieces of chalk. And she says, these are 3 wishes. It's like a fairy tale. These are 3 wishes. If you just, you can use these whenever you need to. And that's kind of how the movie, goes on. It's kind of, she uses these 3 wishes in different ways as her friend who she meets in the streets, actually, one of these other 5 kids, these little boys, they kind of run afoul of the cartel themselves. And it's I don't want to spoil anything about it. I would highly recommend it. One of the better things I've seen this year. Really, really loved the end. I very rarely say that about anything, but the end had some. It's very fraught with fantastic imagery and hidden messages, I would say, and there's lots there to soak in. I kind of want to even watch it again, so I would highly recommend.
Wow. Damn.
So this past week on Adventures in Movies looks at ... We talked about driveways. If you haven't listened to the show, it's actually exclusively on YouTube, so you can listen and watch the show. Check it out. But we talk about locations and set pieces, and this movie had a very intimate set piece and location, and that kind of led us to this week's topic. We wanted to talk about movies that are shot primarily there in one location. So the first time I was kind of racking my head trying to think of movies that only happen in one place, and then I thought, well, actually it's pretty obvious. There's a litany of haunted house, and the classic whodunits all usually take place in a big mansion home type of place. So, what's your guys' favorite haunted house and or whodunit movie?
When you put this down, I couldn't really think of a haunted house or whodunit besides Clue. I guess because I don't.
So good though.
Yeah, Clue's so good, but like a haunted house, like
Yeah,
I feel like
Clue's-
there's always like something else on top of that. Like there's other locations. So I when we
Kind
said
of like in Clue.
well, look, Clue's like in one like centralized location though. Like I feel like one because to me I was like okay, like we're doing a bottle episode, so everything stays in one room for the most part. So I kind of like thought of like just like I thought my first reaction was actually like shit, Knives Out, but then I was like no, because we leave the house. But then I was like all right, cool. Like I was like Die Hard takes place in one like building.
Right.
Like,
Nah, that don't count. Die Hard doesn't count.
Doesn't count. I thought it would count.
Fuck.
Okay,
So
well,
why wouldn't you count Die Hard? I mean, I'm not taking a stand.
It's too many. It's too many set pieces. Like, yes, it's in a giant building, but like, he's crawling through the vents, and then there's like the office party part, and then there's the big corporate office part, and it's just like when I think it's something like this, I think this is like very, very singular. Like either one other setting and then a main
minor
setting. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right. Cool. Yeah.
Because I could say Tremors is a set piece because it takes place in the town of Valentine or whatever, you know, or whatever it is.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Clue's the first thing I thought of, and I'll just say this about Clue. Love it. Was like my favorite movie growing up. It's gonna be really sad when that remake comes out and future generations know Clue by that and not the amazing original. But
Wait, they're remaking Clue?
yeah, well they've been saying
What?
that for decades, so who knows if they
Oh,
will. But this time it's for real, so we'll see.
Damn it, Knives Out.
Well, I got one. So like a whodunit, right? So there's like haunted house, definitely. That's definitely, and I would. There's tons that I could say that I like, but a whodunit, and this one very much. It's even set kind of like or shot like a play. It's called Rope. Alfred Hitchcock. Have you?
Hitchcock with the two killers.
Yes, yes, and Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart. Sometimes said to be done in one shot.
Yes, some rumored, fabled,
Yeah.
but
Fabled,
it's a great movie, and there's lots of subtle like undercurrents to the themes of that movie too. But it's super great. If you haven't checked that out, I feel like it's like you hear Hitchcock movies talked about all the time, but you never hear Rope.
You never do. Like Rope, you don't hear about, and surprising to me is Rebecca, because that actually won the Academy Award for Best Picture, and you don't hear about. Yeah, you don't hear about I mean, you hear obviously Psycho for obvious reasons, North by Northwest and Rear Window, but I'm The Birds. But,
yeah.
You don't hear about Rope and that one. You're right. Lots of undertones, and there's interesting stuff around that, based on a true story, actually.
Is it really? I'll be damned.
Yeah, I mean loosely, it's based on true events.
Oh, okay. Sure. Kind of like the last.
Kind of. There you go. When I thought of in a similar vein, when I thought of whodunit, I thought of and there's lots of different versions of this. So the one that I was thinking of was like from 45, 46, but it's and then there was one, the Agatha Christie story. That's a classic whodunit. Yeah, I mean that's just a straight up like Knives Out.
Murder on the Orient Express too. I would say she's
yeah. That's another really good one. Rope. I actually had Rope down on my list of.
Awesome.
Yeah, because you had it too.
No, I don't have Rope. No, I've never seen Rope. This is the first I've heard it. And I was thinking of actually I had Agatha Christie's name backwards. I had Christie Agatha. so because I really thought of like Ready or Not. So
famous
then I was
player.
Yeah, upside down. Yeah. Then I thought of Ready or Not because that takes place in a giant mansion, and
right. So
then it was like all this like I'm racking my head to see what else kind of worked for that, and it's usually I've never seen that either. So like,
oh my god, dude!
Which one?
Like
the Hateful Eight.
Oh yeah, Hateful Eight is so good. And I mean, if you want to go with Tarantino, I mean, arguably more famously, Reservoir Dogs. Yeah. Like 99% of that takes place in a warehouse, and that's amazing. I guess it depends on your mileage, but that's a very very well done use of one location. I thought. Do you guys like the one location thing, or do you prefer when there's the kind of you go out in the world and there's all the multiple exotic locations? Or maybe they're not exotic, maybe they're kind of toned down, but
It could be
yeah,
exotic.
hey, if it's James Bond, I mean, it has to be.
Yeah. Oh, I see, and I really do like that question. I feel like it could go either way. If the story says like, or if the story doesn't need to go anywhere else, and we could all do it in one room essentially, it's cool. We're gonna get some great like character development, character study type of things. That's why bottle episodes work so well, I guess, in TV, because you just get this, you get these characters being looked at, like in the episode in the Breaking Bad, The Fly, and I did, or Buried in with Ryan Reynolds. He's in a fucking coffin, and he's either talking to the government or the people that kidnapped him, and he doesn't know how he got there. We don't know how he got there, and that's the best thing. Like, you don't have anything else to kind of like tell you what the fuck is happening around the world. You're just you and that character essentially, or characters.
Yeah, the good ones
Right.
typically, I would agree. The good ones typically are really good bits of storytelling. The storytelling has to be real good if you're going to keep it that tight. And so yeah, I typically look forward to that kind of stuff. And sometimes it doesn't always work out, but I mean, and there's definitely movies that kind of do a cross between, like, giving you that compartmentalized. Okay, there's like Saw. Like they're stuck in the room. However, you get to see the other stuff outside too, which is kind of a cool combination thereof. But yeah, I always kind of look forward to it.
Yeah. It's funny, like, and you guys bring up a lot of the points that I was thinking of, but I'm actually really not a fan of the one location thing because, like Buried, I don't really care for that movie, but not just because it's set in one location, but I like being immersed in the entire world, and when you're in one location, you kind of lose that. I think a good example, and this is stretching the term one location, but Cube is, it's in this maze prison type thing. But it's a cool movie. It's a cool. I like it a lot, but you have no idea what's going on in the world, and that little bit, it nags at me. Like I'm a big like world building type of person. I guess I'm into lore and world building. So when you're locked in one location, you do lose something. And going to what Blake was saying, yeah, if you have the characters and the story, then it doesn't work. Like in Clue, I never even think about it. But if it's a movie like that even is just good and not great, to me it kind of loses something. But that kind of leads to the pros and cons. What do you guys think are the pros of shooting it in one place, and what are the kind of the downfalls of it? I mean, that's for me, that's my big thing, is like you can lose a sense of the world.
Yeah, I would say it's easy to get boring. I would say, like, if it's not real humming along in an interesting way, one setting can completely lose interest, quickly, in my personal experience anyway.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I rewatched Free Fire for the second time, I think, since I saw it in theaters, and I feel like that movie is essentially just shooting, but the way that it keeps it kind of like, on its feet, or you as on your feet, is essentially like how it moves from character to character, kind of like there's multiple characters in this movie, but we're in the same room, and we're seeing from different points of view of what's happening. I like that kind of stuff. Like, that kept me. But I mean, if this movie didn't really move from the character from one point of view, and we're just seeing fucking guns being shot, that will lose itself. I will lose interest in that very quickly.
And you guys have brought it up too. When things are internalized like that, and you're in one location, then you have a great opportunity for character building. What you lose in world building, you can make up for in character building and story. Which some of the movies you guys like, I think the first Saw. I mean, the franchise goes downhill real quick, but the first movie is really, really, really good. We talked about Clue and Reservoir Dogs. Like, these are like great movies, but that's the level that you can get out of just shooting in one location. So what are some of your guys' favorite one location movies, aside from the ones we've mentioned?
I'm gonna keep it horror, keep it Halloween, people.
Keep it spooky.
Yeah, keep it spooky at all times. And two, and I've brought it up a million times, and I'll just say it again real quick. Coherence, a great movie, very, very tight, very, very, very one room. But then the other one that again is just super underrated over time, Pontypool. I love Pontypool, and that is 100% a bottle episode.
No, I was gonna say that I think 12 Angry Men is
classic.
Excellent.
It's like the
Yeah, that totally is the that's what everything should be modeled on. I mean, you get maybe you don't get the world building, but you don't need it because you get it in those characters, like the sweat and the anger and the discomfort and just having to make a decision. You get it all there. It's amazing. I'm sorry, what were you gonna say, Danny?
No. I was gonna say saw my girlfriend mentioned it and how I never really thought about that, like that being more of a, because I remember it having a lot of different locations besides the main room, but yeah, like 12 when you have that character study of that person, like in 12 Angry Men, when there's so much heated debate, it works so well. And again, I'm just echoing what you're saying, Pat. It should just every movie, every bottle episode, and for most part, one room locations should be modeled after that because it just works so well. Oh, I was gonna say my favorite movie that I guess I want to keep it horror film too, just because I named a lot of them too. Yeah. But Green Room.
Living Dead. Oh, Green Room. Green Room.
Green Room.
Rest in peace, Anton Yelchin.
Yeah, that was his last movie too. Holy fuck. And then I was gonna say Sci-Fi Moon is another good one too.
Ooh, Moon's a good one.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Like if we look at it like these, I'm not saying like Green Room is like a great character study out there, but it keeps you essentially going back like in this weird little loop, going back to that room every single time, and we don't leave the bar. It was a bar, right? Yeah, bar. I haven't visited that movie in a while because it did make me feel.
Say that bar. I haven't been to that bar in a while. It's like damn.
And no love for the Breakfast Club.
Oh,
yeah, I love Breakfast Club. Truthfully,
yeah, it's a great movie. Like that's another one too. That's the 12 Hungry Men of the 80s.
I think of our time, like without a doubt, that's probably the. Well, I mean, we've mentioned a lot of it. Like Clue was around within a few years of it, so I guess it's hard to say that that's the epitome of it. But I want to say that, and I didn't think of it at the time, but I want to say The Breakfast Club might be the first movie I saw that's primarily shot in one location. I mean, they go to the gymnasium and there's a couple of outdoor scenes, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, it does happen in this library.
That's true.
That's very true. Well, I always thought of it, Breakfast Club, as they're in detention at school, but you know, the main location that will be the library, and obviously you get to kind of like go different places, just like kind of like a Die Hard in a way. But I see.
Oh man, you're gonna die on that hill, huh?
No, I won't die on that. No, I won't die on that hill either. I won't die. I'm just saying, like, because in Breakfast Club, everything kind of like moves. It has a reason, you know. So they're not just in the fucking library. They're gonna try to they escape through the fucking vent to go to another room. You know, there's different things. And then,
right, Danny, you were doing so good. I think you didn't say fuck the entire show, and then you said it twice in like 50 seconds. Well, every Saturday. The rest of the week, you go to AvengersandPoorTaste.com, where you can find all the other podcasts. We have Talking Tauntauns, we have Poor Taste Wrestling, we have our General Comics podcast. You can catch up with our reviews too, and leave your thoughts. Right now on YouTube, you can find Adventures in Movies. We're there. We also have the show I mentioned earlier, Adventures in Movies Looks At. This week, we're looking at a stop motion film called The Wolf House. On the site, you can check out an article. One of our new contributors wrote an article called A Beginner's Guide to Dungeons and Dragons. But check it out.
And while you're doing that, you can follow us, Adventures in Movies, on Twitter over at AIPT Movies. Or you can follow us individually. You can find Nathaniel on Instagram over at Nathan Port Taste. And you can find me, Danny, on Twitter and Instagram at default_player. And you can find Blake the Bottle on Twitter at 4-Eyed Horror.
Oh, it always makes me laugh no matter what it is. Next week, well, we enter the new normal. What does that mean? I don't know. Check it out.
That's all you need to know. We enter the new normal. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. You can go to the website. We're there for sure. I cannot say the same thing for Stitcher, but you can definitely check it out. Make sure to give us a rating or just tell a friend to listen, and check us out on YouTube. And that's our cue. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Adios.